Academica Media. You are listening to Charter School Superstars, bringing you the voices of an education revolution.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Ryan Kairalla from Doral College. Oh man, am I always excited to talk to this gentleman. He is the CEO of Edthena, a video-based teacher coaching platform. Recently, Edthena devoted additional time and resources to providing effective teacher coaching solutions across virtual platforms. You can check out his book, Evidence of Practice, Playbook for Video-Powered Professional Learning, by visiting evidenceofpractice.com. And you can find out more about his company by visiting edthena.com. We are happy to welcome back one of our favorite guests around here, Adam Geller, on to Charter School Superstars. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Ryan. It's great to be back with you.
Great to be talking to you. So you've been on the show before, but we always have new folks coming into the program, discovering this little podcast. And so for the new folks, for the uninitiated, can you talk a bit about what Edthena does?
Sure. So when I meet somebody out in the world, and now as I'm teeing that up, I'm realizing I haven't done that much recently.
It's not really in our job description anymore.
But when I talk to somebody for the first time, maybe about Edthena, I describe us as a video-powered professional learning platform. We help streamline observation and feedback for teachers by bringing that process online. So teachers record their teaching, whether that's in person or in a virtual space. Then they share that video with a coach or a colleague who can provide feedback at specific moments in time.
One of the most intriguing aspects about getting to talk to you, Adam, is the first time we had you on this program, it was pre-pandemic, and you were already telling me about the importance of video-based coaching and how you were predicting that it was going to become even more ubiquitous in the profession. And this was pre-pandemic. Obviously, pandemic hits, and it went from becoming something that you thought was going to be more adopted to just becoming a necessity in the K-12 system. And so I'd love for you, if you could, to reflect on the new role that video-based coaching has taken in the COVID pandemic and how that role has just expanded in the past year.
Well, I think the really big difference to comparing to the before times is that video is no longer this good idea that we've yet to try. So, when in the past we would talk about this, we would talk about the idea that some teachers had experienced watching themselves on video. But now we're in a world where almost all teachers have experienced watching themselves on video. Now, maybe they haven't used that video yet for reflecting on their practice and professional learning purposes, but they have, kind of crossed that initial barrier of doing video for the first time. So what I really think this unlocks as we look forward, to everyone being able to return to classrooms full time, is those discussions about how video becomes a part of the ongoing professional learning systems and no longer needing to kind of do the emotional negotiation of getting people through that first time, and instead talking about all the ways that it can really help supercharge the professional learning process for teachers and help them have a greater impact with their students.
Video has just become a far more natural part of a teacher's day-to-day life now, and certainly in terms of the delivery of educational material to students. So why not have it also play a role in the coaching process? And I can tell you, a lot of the charter management organizations I work with, where it's multiple charter schools under one sort of banner, and these schools can be spread out throughout the country, they are grateful for the presence of video-based coaching solutions where they can have a master teacher in one side of the world and use products like Edthena to have that great teacher's insights spread throughout the country without having to put that teacher on a plane and take him out of the classroom, to enable, coaching, to enable teachers all over the place to benefit from one particular teacher's expertise in one part of the country. And so I love seeing this take on its best form and be effective. And in that regard, for the folks who are going to get into the video coaching side of this, who maybe have been instructional coaches in the past and now are being asked to take their show into the virtual world, do you have any tips for those master teachers out there on how they can be effective video-based coaches?
Well, I think maybe my tips probably are longer than fit into one short podcast. But
Fair enough.
I think maybe my biggest guidance that I can provide, that's kind of some short guidance, is as you are someone who's transitioning from being to interacting in person for coaching to interacting virtually, just approach that new scenario with the kind of recognition and quite honestly the humility that it doesn't work the same way, and it being the type of feedback or the type of probing you would do for teachers, as the kind of the habits that we were used to when we were doing it in person. So as an example of a practice that you could have done in person if you were using video, but would be really important in an online coaching context, like you were proposing, maybe that master teacher or coach is not able to ever visit physically. So you have the teacher record, empower them to self-reflect first. Empower them to go through that video and ask questions, to kind of highlight areas of concern. Not only is that better for teachers to put them in the driver's seat, really make them active participants in the observation. But it really ensures that we don't get into a mode with video, which I can even get into when I'm not being careful coaching my own team members on video, which is you get really focused on dialing in on the specifics, because it's so easy to focus on so many small details when you have all the details right there in front of you. So by allowing the teachers to take that first pass, it really, as the coach, as you're getting into it and getting more comfortable, helps you stay at that level of conversation that is appropriate, right? You don't need to always be in the super fine details all the time. You need to be in the kind of, the bigger brushstrokes level of how's a lesson going, or what are the general moves we're seeing, or breaking down a particular sequence of actions rather than this particular 10 seconds versus that 10 seconds.
Do you think there's something about the virtual coaching medium as opposed to physical coaching that does provide additional advantages to the coach and the person being coached, other than just the fact that you can reach more people over a virtual medium? Is there something about having it on screens and using software that allows for more effective coaching in some circumstances?
I certainly think so. No, I think that when you're talking about a completely virtual process, right? And to be clear, Edthena is used and had been used previously in a hybrid process where you would have coaches going sometimes in person and sometimes doing virtual feedback, or maybe they were in person talking about the videos, and also in a completely virtual context. But kind of as you're asking about here, what are some advantages to consider in that completely virtual context? Well, one thing that's interesting that I heard from a university setting that was doing a study actually in the K-12 space about coaching is that the teachers participating in that study, where they had the coaches who were not part of their school building, they actually felt safer than if it had been the person in the building, right? So
That's interesting.
there's always this background question running through a teacher's head in a school building. No matter how good we are at building the culture, there's always this undercurrent of like, is this a coaching conversation, or is this a conversation that's going to feed into my evaluation, right? And I think that's a constant thing that happens in schools, and you need to constantly be working on that in a school to kind of delineate between the two modes. But I think when you have that external person who's clearly a coach, who's clearly not even able to, go to the principal's office and disclose something about a coaching conversation, you kind of eliminate any of those background worries that might still persist for teachers, even in the healthiest of buildings, where the culture is great. They're still, kind of wondering, like, is this a truly safe conversation? So I think when those people are totally external actors, it really changes the balance of power and for the teacher. And, they're in control of defining 100% who's going to see that video. And, no one in the school could see that video potentially, right? And by the way, in Edthena, teachers are always in control of their videos, so there's no issue of a principal dropping in unannounced on something you recorded but you're not ready to share. I don't want to suggest that that's happening. Teachers are always in control in my view, but I think when those coaches are outside, it changes how is the information going to be shared part of the equation.
That's a really cool perspective. I could certainly see as an instructor feeling like if I know that this coaching is happening through this virtual platform from somebody who is physically very distant from the school campus, I can say to myself, okay, this is a legitimate coaching session that is going to make me a better instructor and isn't just an evaluation disguised as a coaching session. And I think that could definitely change my mindset as an instructor, and there's a lot of value in that. And speaking of empowering instructors, I want to get your perspective on something. And it's not directly related to video-based coaching, but I figure somebody like you who's just been a part of coaching so many teachers through your technology and has just probably met so many teachers, you might have some thoughts about this. As we're getting to the end of this academic year and we're getting ready to start the next one, hopefully an academic year where most teachers will at least be able to spend some of their time actually in a physical campus with their students again. I know a lot of students or teachers are looking forward to that. Do you have any thoughts on what we should be doing to support teachers to get them ready for next year and put them in a position where they can start to combat any pandemic-related learning loss that their students may have experienced?
Well, I think my advice here may feel like a statement of the obvious, but maybe it is important to say it out loud. I am obviously a strong believer in teacher professional development, but I think next year more than ever, school leaders and network leaders are going to have to really change how they prioritize professional development. We can't just have it on the list of things we might be doing or we might carve out time for, or that we add in as a something extra for teachers, but instead really giving the teachers time, which may mean, in a resource constrained environment that you need to cut back on a something else. Because at the end of the day, the challenges that teachers are going to face supporting their students next year as they come back to classrooms full time is a surmountable challenge. It is one that's going to take a lot of work, and teachers are going to need support, both the tactical guidance, but also to feel supported. And so my advice would be, scaling back a little bit from that, should we do video coaching? Should we do something else? Is really just moving professional development up on the list of ways that you are prioritizing your investments at a big picture level. I think that's going to be better for students. It's going to be better for teachers. And if you put on your administrator hat, it's going to be better for you because teachers who feel well supported are more likely to retain in their role. And everybody's really worried about whether teachers are going to retain in their roles right now, especially with fewer teachers available to hire.
Prioritizing professional development makes a lot of sense to me. I think when we come into next fall, there's going to be a lot of teachers who, through no necessarily fault of the schools, but just feel less than supported just because of everything that's been going on in the world, not being able to get onto their campus, not being able to get with their students, and just going through a very professionally and psychologically difficult semester. They're going to want more than ever to feel that support from their administration. And I think a great way to start that support right from the beginning is what you said, having the school leaders prioritize professional development in the faculty members right from the beginning. Before we get to our final question, Adam, I do want to give you an opportunity to tell the listeners a bit about your new book, Evidence of Practice, Playbook for Video-Powered Professional Learning. This is available online. Can you tell folks a bit about it?
Absolutely. So, this book is really, we call it a playbook because it is tactical and practical. Yes, of course, we go into a little bit of the background of the decades of research that supports this type of work and why it makes sense for, choosing to go down a path of using video. But the majority of the book covers 12 different strategies And it is a playbook. It's a play-by-play of how to implement those ideas. And they range from really simple, low effort and fast to virtualizing complex things. So on the easier, faster end, there's a strategy that I really love called pre-teach. This is the kind of in-service version of oh man, I can't think of the word where you do the micro teaching. There we go. The micro teaching in a teacher education context. So think micro teaching, but for in-service teachers, you have teachers record like a 90-second, 2-minute clip of that key idea in the lesson that is going to happen. So it's a 2-minute clip that helps them really sharpen how they're going to present that concept. Then the coach or the colleague or the school leader can provide some really tactical guidance on that 2-minute clip. What's so powerful is it's fast for the teacher, it's fast for the person providing the feedback, and it has the ability to positively impact instruction before it ever happens with students. That to me is a game changer, because you're not talking about correcting a past mistake. You're talking about improving on what's going to happen. So that's on the kind of faster, lighter, easier end of the spectrum. And then on the kind of bigger picture end of the spectrum, we even walk through how you can implement Japanese lesson study style learning using a virtual context. Basically, the idea is you bring parts of that process online. It lowers some of your logistical barriers to implementing that while still creating the opportunity within your school or network context for that really important lesson study style professional learning to occur.
That's tremendous. I love it. I love it. And you can get a copy of Evidence of Practice by going to evidenceofpractice.com. Nice job nailing that domain name, by the way. That's pretty terrific. And you can find out more about Edthena in general by visiting edthena.com if you want to learn more about the fantastic video-based coaching services provided by that platform. Adam, it is always a treat to have you on, my friend. Before we let you go, one final question. If with the snap of your fingers you could make any change to the education system, what change would it be?
I have to say, I planned to answer this question because I knew it was coming, and I was going to talk about prioritizing PD. So instead, I will add a new thing. I'll add a new thing. So I absolutely believe that we all need, basically assessments to understand where students are. But I think all educators recognize those assessments can really be a drain on the teachers and the students to administer and get done. So if there was a way to snap our fingers and magically create an assessment that gives us great visibility into where students are, but took zero time out of our opportunities to have learning occurring in the classroom, I think that would be pretty magical. I do think that's kind of fantasy style thinking. So, I'll also end with, if we can't achieve that, I'd still be angling for prioritizing professional development, making sure that we create that space as teachers come back to the classrooms next year, mainly because the challenges ahead are great. The opportunity is also great. And, to really help teachers get to wherever there is for a particular building or a community, it's going to take creating the space for them to, process and become better at their roles within the context of doing their job during the day, right? We shouldn't push this off on teachers for, 6 to 8 p.m. on a Thursdays or on a weekend activity for them. We should give them time and space to do that within the school day.
Well, those were two terrific answers to that question. And with respect to your first answer, don't worry about logistical and financial concerns, all right? The spirit of the snap the fingers question is you get to snap your fingers. Budgets and times and amount of time in the day, we don't concern ourselves with that here on Charter School Superstars with our final question. But great insight all around. It is always so terrific to have you on. Thank you so much for your time this week, Adam.
My pleasure being here. Thanks for having me on.
And thank you all for listening to Charter School Superstars.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.